Although Disney does portray good morals in their adaptations of fairy tales, they also impose underlying messages about the standardization and dominant fantasy of gender roles in the West, and this could be problematic. Although Disney portrays Pocahontas as a carefree, free-spirited, wild character, this may seem at first to be a positive message for a young audience. However, the underlying messages received from Pocahontas may be much more complex. Out of all of the other princesses, Pocahontas doesn't fall into the dominant fantasy of a beautiful woman. She doesn't have beautiful blue eyes, her hair is not blonde but is black, and her skin is much darker. Because of her independent nature, Pocahontas doesn't believe in following rules, and she teaches John Smith to be more carefree like her, which is not usual behavior for a typical Disney princess. Because of rebelling and going against her community's patriarchal traditions and falling in love with a white man instead of Kocoum,
but he's so serious.
The man whom her father had prearranged a marriage for Pocahontas, she doesn't want to marry Kocoum due to his seriousness and refusal to open up and have fun.
But he's so serious.
Because of this, she caused a feud between her and her father, which shows Pocahontas' disobedience and actions caused Kocoum's death because it evoked jealousy within him, and he may also have felt like he was protecting Pocahontas from the foreigner John Smith, whom she was kissing.
Because of your foolishness, Kocoum is dead.
A typical white Disney princess always ends up being saved by her Prince Charming. She would get to marry into a monarchy, becomes a real princess, and presumably live happily ever after with the man she loves. In Pocahontas' case, she did not get this happy ending. In the end, John Smith, the one that she actually loved, got wounded due to saving her father from a bullet and had to be taken away to be healed. Kocoum's death and John's injury seems to be derived from Pocahontas' rebellion because her relationship with John Smith attracted attention and anger from both sides. However, the real reason the men ended this way is because of racial differences and the hunger for power, and this resulted in violence which ended in tragedy, not because of Pocahontas' fun-loving nature. Kocoum's death and John's injury made them seem like victims and didn't sprout from jealousy and rage, but only from Pocahontas' actions, which is not true. In conclusion, Pocahontas does set a good example for young audiences set out to be themselves and stand up for what they believe in. However, it also shows that once you go too far and break too many rules, you're the alternate fantasy. Therefore, you don't get your Prince Charming and happily ever after. What do you get is hurting the people you love along the way and hurting yourself in the end. So how is this problematic? The perceiving messages may feel inadequate to fit the dominant fantasy of gender roles in the West. They may feel like if they act carefree and strong like Pocahontas, there will be consequences and they will not get their Prince Charming and not get the happily ever after.
Walt Disney is portraying Pocahontas as a carefree, free-spirited white character. She was represented as an ideal example of an independent woman. She could make her own choices and have the opportunity to decide what the best is for her. She might not have been represented as the rest of the princes of Walt Disney, yet she had their own and unique character. Very attractive, have a beautiful dark skin color, long black hair, and big wide black eyes. Mostly her strong positive personality attracted whoever surrounded her, and she had the capacity of making other perceive matters within the different positive ways. In her case, she was able to take the white man Johnny Smith, whom supposed to be her enemy, to her own perspective of the world and culture that she lived in. She introduced him to the meaning of living an incredible life within the nature that they were surrounded by. In response, John Smith has changed his mind and did not want to go on with the mission that he came with in the first place.
We don't have to fight them.
John, what's gotten into you?
I met one of them. You...
What? A savage?
They're not savages. They can help us.
Therefore, to the young girls, Pocahontas has been set an example of being independent, strong, and achieved to what she believed in no matter what and how long it took her.
Little Mermaid is readapted in 1989 by Disney. Here we see more positive messages, which Ksenia will focus on later. I will first point out the negative that are portrayed in this film. The storyline is very well known. Ariel falls in love with Prince Eric at first sight when she saw him on a ship, despite it being full of many other men on board. But she chose him over the rest because only princes are allowed to get a girl. Knowing this to be Disney, Ariel can be assured that Prince Eric is not gay and neither is she. The works of body politics is played out here by comparing the good characters as being physically fit, white, and good-looking, while the villain is portrayed as being fat, ugly, and non-white. The characters are given limited roles based on their gender, status, and class. All of the prince servants are portrayed as old and desexualized. King Triton and Ursula are polar opposite. King Triton is seen as the epitome of masculinity, the stern and powerful father who is never put into a context that is anything but fatherly. There's no mother here, and the grandmother is edited out from the original fairy tale. The undersea witch Ursula is depicted as the sexualized demon that lives alone in her cave. Here we see the camera zooms into her chest as she shakes them. Her looks draw from the 70s drag queen divine. She uses her magic to help the unfortunate soul of the merfolk. They are souls in pain and in need. This one needs to be thinner, this one needs to get the girls. Ariel is a free-spirited, independent, risk-taking, and rule-defying girl who is free to be what she wants to be, which is to sing and explore. She takes action into her own hand and doesn't wait for a prince to save her. Instead, her actions are merely reactive. For example, her contact with the prince is a rebellious response to her father's order, nor does she actively seek out the sea witch. Prince Eric is seen as a passionate man who loves his dog and his woman. Although he has poor judgment, he is the idealized form of masculinity and the physique of a hero, as this becomes the standard look across many Disney films. He mostly pure at the events and moment. Self-sacrifice is seen as the highest form of love in Christian forms. Ariel loses her voice and her life for a man she barely knows. She signs the contract she made with Ursula in English. So if she can sign her name in English, why can't she just write to the prince instead of being mute? She loses her free-spirited attitude when she goes to the surface. Ariel is a naive youth who needs constant supervision by her father and men, where we see her two best friends are both male, Flanders and Sebastian. In the end, following the patriarchal formula, all women with power must be destroyed, especially when Ursula is killed by Prince Eric, who uses his ship to defeat her, thus showing the power of human technology as being far superior to the magical and natural world. The patriarchal hierarchy is present again, in which Ariel must be handed down from her father to her husband when King Triton granted her wish of becoming human. She leaves one man to be with another. In the end, male dominance is maintained and reaffirmed.
By reviewing the various parts of the film, we can say for sure that the standardized gender roles are often present in the film, and so it can eventually be criticized for some stereotypical character traits and actions. Yet there are also many exceptions that can be found throughout the story to prove us otherwise. In many cases, the film contradicts the established gender roles of our society. In The Little Mermaid, Ariel is the strongest character, even when compared to men. She is the one whose desires lead to the main conflict between good and evil. From the beginning of the film, we see how Disney breaks the rules of the established gender roles. Ariel, a mermaid of only 16 years of age, saves Prince Eric from drowning after his ship is hit by a storm. Unusual for a woman in real life, and even more unexpected for a princess in fairy tales, Ariel becomes the initial creator of the tale, triggering all the events that follow. If not for her, Prince Eric would have been dead and no love story could have taken place after all.